Hi, my name is Kaya. Today we have Peter Maxwell. So thank you for your time, Peter.
Kaya, it's good to do this. I'm living in Australia, of course, but I've got Jaya Sanctuary. So I'm a lifelong experiencer with not just extraterrestrials, but ultra-terrestrials and what we could say, those that are ascended intelligences and from which we come from and go back to. Because of that, it's led on a lifelong mission into self-mastery and assisting others in understanding their experiences from going within. And so I've dedicated my life to this now. It's been about 15 years that I've been in the public eye, and I work with James Gilliland, who's got ESETI in America. I've got ESETI in Australia and Jaya Sanctuary, which is extraterrestrial, enlightened contact with extraterrestrial intelligences, pardon me. And James has been doing that for about 40 years as well. So I've been lucky to work with him and different master teachers from around the world, delving into different disciplines of yoga, meditation, hypnotherapy, NLP, CE5 or initiating contact. Many different things. So that's sort of just a brief overview. So I'm about 3.5 hours from Melbourne. I'm about halfway between Melbourne and Sydney. So I'm on the border of New South Wales and Victoria. And the events that I hold at Jaya Sanctuary are Sky Watches, more of an introduction to this type of thing. CE5, where we go through different inner sensitivity practices, doing Yigong, Qigong, different variations of meditation, and really working with the inner mind, which is connected to all minds. And then also self-mastery workshops. There's also soon to be available, I'm just sort of getting things up now in terms of more events, but remote viewing, which I've been doing for about 11 years. There's also light worker workshops, working with the light body, the rainbow body, the Merkaba, the different templates as well of the light body. That's sort of what I can think of off the top of my head at the moment. So I'm on about 6.5 acres amongst hundreds of acres around myself, near a town called Rutherglen and another town called Corowa. And so, that's what the events are doing from Jaya Sanctuary here. Also, I do online appointments. So I've been doing that full time for about 7 years, whether it's spiritual life coaching, intuitive readings, and also assisting people to connect with their own guides, and really the higher self is what we're talking about with this as well, which is the ultimate goal. So there's that. I've done 13 books, probably about that many documentaries, though only a couple of them are mainstream at the moment. And mainly it's putting all the energy now and focusing it and funneling it into Jaya Sanctuary, doing events. So I actually opened this weekend for this season. Depending on how things go at the moment, the plan's 3 months on, 3 months off. So open in spring, open in autumn, and maybe go to America during our winter and do some stuff over there. So it was on and off since childhood, but it wasn't a main point of focus. We could say that I've always been spiritual, but you get taken over with life, with high school, just life in general. But it was around October 10th, 2010, I had a spate of sightings that I even had a witness with and got on video that eventually went on the news. And it didn't stop. I even went to the Australian Air Services about it, and they said there was nothing in the skies of my area at that time. And so, like I said, I've been a lifelong experiencer, but to me, I was at the point that if I couldn't film it, see it, touch it, have a witness, I just wasn't going into the psychic realm. I didn't want to go there at that time because I needed something tangible. And long story short, here I am years later. This is 14 years now, going on 15, with thousands of videos and photos. Some of it's been analysed by news channels. Jason Gleaves from ex-UK Air Force and Aerospace in the UK. There's physical material. And so it was around 2010 that it really amped up. And I just thought, it was a sighting, it was an experience, then it happened again, then it happened again. And then it was sort of on and off to the point where it was weekly or monthly, something was happening to the point that it's every day. So even the last month and a half, there's probably over 250 videos I've just got sitting. I don't put everything up I've got. I don't have the time or what have you, but every now and then I'll put stuff up. But that's where it's got to, and there is interfacing, what I call thought transfer, whether it's them using consciousness assisted technology, if they're a lower form of intelligence, still we could say evolved. And then there's those that purely you can interface, it's your consciousness merging with their consciousness. So it really depends. But yeah, 2010, and then it went into blue orbs in the home. I had a being materialize that was a blue light being, and then also Shiji, which is a being from the Pleiades, and then a spate of other intelligences, to where there is sort of a core group that I do work with. That it's a lot to get into, but we could say that they're old friends and family is the best way I'll say it. Yeah. There's stuff that part of me doesn't like to say stuff because I don't want it to be an ego thing, but let me put it like this. I had in one of my documentaries, movies called Multidimensional, John Vivanco, who has worked for alphabet agencies, who's worked for corporations, what have you, is a psychic spy. Originally when he met, it was like, we're going to see if you're full of crap, if you're lying. And so him and his team remote viewed, and long story short, they started to have experiences with the beings that are visiting me, physically as well. It wasn't just like they started to materialize in their home. The point with John is that what many remote viewers, which are up to 40, actually over 40 remote viewers now, have psychically targeted me without knowing that I'm the target, have come to a conclusion that I have, we could say, a genetic bank, and I've been manipulated, not just to where they're taking original genetics from me. And people wonder why that is, because it's like cloning. The weaker from the original it gets. So it needs to be, we could say, the original. But part of this has also got to do with the mainframe of an intelligence like me with the purpose. And apparently there might be 5 or 6 or 7 specifically like me. I'm not the only person having experiences. There's, to me, millions of people having. I actually think everyone does, but they don't have recall, or they don't understand even their thoughts. But it's to create a being with the purpose of being connected to God's source creator, and consciously, whether in trauma or in love and excitement, no matter what the circumstances. And it got me wondering when they were saying that, because we look at life in terms of, a lot of people are highly psychic and have experiences when they're going through great trauma. And what I say is that sort of sucks, because why not be doing it in a loving, joyful state? And maybe it's different for me because of what they've said, but that's what I'm trying to do, is assist people through tips and tools and finding out their own inner mechanics, how they can be, and acknowledge that they actually are connected all the time. It's just really taking a step back, dropping what you think you know, and allowing to perceive what's already going on. You realize that you're already connected, which is a very simplistic thing, but unless people take the time and they can sort of understand, or they're at that stage, they're not going to understand that, and each to their own. So that's part of it. Part of it as well is, we could just say, it's being a messenger. And it's not that, again, I'm anything important, but it's relaying information that you and I could be talking to a crowd, and you and I could say the exact same thing. Some people are going to be more receptive to you than me, and vice versa. And I think that's part of it as well, is that our energy, our transmissions, our information is, I don't think there's anything new being said from any of us. I think it's very simplistic and basic, but the way that it's presented, the energy in which it's presented, and the way that each individual can, that's us contributing our little piece of our jigsaw puzzle to the collective consciousness in raising it. So I know that's a bit of a what roundabout answer, but I hope that's sort of like enough to sort of get the ball rolling with people's minds thinking about that.
Yeah, I understand, completely understand what you're saying, because this is not like who is better or not, like who is selected or not. It's just, things happened according to the soul plan. That's how I perceive. And then some people go into the spiritual journey and some people not. And it is interesting that people see the UFOs or phenomena. For example, I've seen the fairies and then I've seen UFOs since I was a child. I know that something is there. It's so arrogant to think that out of this big universe that we are only the existence that, living like this and just having fun here on the planet. I think that we are like just going through the journey with this soul contract and program, and we have some sort of like a job or mission. Some people are selected like you as a messenger, and then you're doing this type of or going through this journey. So many times you're talking about Elohim, and so I want you to explain to people what it is or who it is.
So we could say, and it's not to get biblical or religious in any sense, Elohim in Hebrew is actually plural for gods. It's not God, though that can be used for, or that's what the people assume if they're not read up or researched or what have you. This was the furthest thing from my mind. Now, the way I can explain the Elohim, and just for a moment, if everyone can use their imagination, imagine my body as God's source creator. The supreme intelligence. Now, imagine each cell of that being, that's what your higher self is a cell of God's body. That's the Elohim right there. There are factions of Elohim that are creator beings that work from a light blueprint. Now, the best way I can explain this is everything is consciousness and awareness, which goes into a vibratorial state, which is sound. Sound creates light, light creates matter. I've been saying this for years, others have. We now have science backing up some of this, right? So on a vibratorial state, going into light, there are Elohim that they are creating the universe in God's mind, and that's their job purely. There are some that will work in councils that will assist with what you'll go and experience in a reality, in a life, and what have you. They also come in variations of colours, and I equate this these days with them being the masters of different domains of densities of consciousness. So red being the lower, going up through each colour. You're going through red, you're going through orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, what have you. And there are also some that will appear like they're on fire, which I believe is more of the Merkaba that they're appearing in, and also ones that will appear in the rainbow body, which go hand in hand with the Tibetan rainbow body. It's really hand in hand with the Merkaba. They're different mechanics of an ascension process. And so they would be the main intelligences that I'm interfacing with. But then at the end of the day, I'm talking to me right now, you're talking to yourself, and all these intelligences are cells of that one intelligence. But in the earlier days, what they were doing was appearing as, well, I'll just see these blue orbs about this big. They could be about golf ball size, going up bigger as well. And then there would be lightning in the house, and I would see these 7-foot tall light beings, and eventually I would start to see them as columns of light. And so, in a brief way, that's probably the best way I could explain the variations, and there's probably more I could go into, but it's just trying to condense it so it's digestible. I don't want to get too far ahead, and not saying that you listeners couldn't understand it, but just trying to make it digestible. Well, the source is all that is, and I think from a human perspective, we can experience it in a way when connected to the body as a light. I've experienced it in the variations of ways, as a light to where I'm a light and there's trillions of other lights. There's also a way that in the nothingness or the darkness, and it's not looking at it from a negative perspective, but even with positive intelligences, and actually I'll add this in with the Elohim, there were Elohim that left the state of incarnating and experiencing realms to where they created AI, and they're the fallen ones. So I don't want people, when I talk about Elohim, I am talking about exactly what I originally talked about. These beautiful, loving intelligences that we are all an aspect, like it's our highest expression. But there were ones that left that through the physical experience and not wanting to go back to source, through thriving off manipulation and what have you, they created AI, a distorted form of frequency, and distributing it to where it lives off fear, lust, and lower energies, which actually perpetuates a mechanics for them to stay in a lower frequency. So to do that, they need a lower frequency. So I will say that as well. So in terms of source, I've experienced it in different ways, to where I've even had a manifestation of source as a being to interface with me. And this is the thing, even with some of your extraterrestrial experiences, ultra terrestrial, even with dream state, third eye experiences, I'd ask people to think of what I'm about to say, which is sometimes what you're experiencing is not 100% real. The experience is real. But if your brain isn't open enough, and it's not belittling anyone, our brains are only operating at about 7%, give or take, right? I believe when we're operating at 100%, we can pretty much experience things trans-dimensionally as they actually are. But if your brain hasn't got a reference point, what happens in most cases is that the higher self, or the intelligences you're interfacing with, will create a screen experience that's symbolic for what they're trying to leave you with and leave markers with of intel and information that's integratable. If it's not done, like even with some of my experiences, it's like, I can't, like, you don't understand it, because what's happening is when you interface with them, unless you can meet them halfway, they're going to give you like a book, and all the pages won't be in a linear way from start to end. It's just like, bang, now get this. But when you meet them halfway, you can linearize it and make it digestible. So what happens is, even our experience with source, it's unbounded. It's all that is. All is an aspect of it. All dimensions and planes and densities of consciousness are within it. And the best way that we can perceive it depends on our own framework and our own lens. But I believe out of body, we already know all of this, and it's not a mystery, but it depends on the vehicle that you're experiencing, or reality in which you're doing for a purpose, on how it may integrate, and depending on your level of consciousness where you're at. So source is all loving. It's all that is. It shines from within every single being, but how some will experience it will be different from the next person. My experience is even the angelics have different aspects. There are people that we could say are really well read up on this, that are also experiences that some say they even come from the Pleiades or different star systems. They could even be coming from the exact star, like Shiji comes from the star in the Pleiades, Merope or Merope, depending on how you pronounce it. I've had experiences with multi-facets, aspects of these angelics, to where they've been human, to where they've been geometric and made of light, looking like a transformer, to where they've been balls of light. So I think, again, it's something where if we can understand that we're multidimensional, and actually there is no past, present, or future, and that we're fractal in nature, these angelics are like that too, just like ascended masters, from the standpoint of people go, well, how can you have a million people praying to Archangel Michael and he hears them all? Well, when you are part of Source, as a worker being for Source, and you are created from Source with the mandate of being, we could say, a regulator. There's a movie called Young Guns, an old one where they had the regulators in it. It's an old school movie, but my point with this is that's sort of what some of these angelic intelligences are. They're regulators, they're monitors, they're protectors, and they've all got different certain missions. Because it's like what we all are here to experience, but it's on a different scale. And when they're operating in a higher frequency, they can communicate with 1 trillion intelligences simultaneously if they wanted to. So it's just like I've had to explain to people that, yes, there are 3D extraterrestrials, but there's also extraterrestrials that can be occupying a planetary body that has 3D intelligences on it, and you go up a few frequencies or the next frequency, any frequency, and there are other intelligences overlapping the 3D frequency that you may not be able to perceive unless it wants to interface with you or you're sensitive yourself, to the point where some of these beings are meditating on another planet and they can project a physical copy to another planet and interface with you, and they don't even need a ship. And it was funny at the start, you're talking about how it looked like a pearl in the sky, or the imagery of the craft, because in the book translated Word of Buddha, in Tibet, they talk about gods coming down from the sky that were in these pearls. And that's very much like many of the crafts that I'm filming are these beings in that. So there are angelic intelligences, and they operate, some are at a level of being around Source's throne, Merkaba, what have you. And then they can have fractal versions to where they're going out and doing things within Source with physical versions of themselves, depending on the density that is as physical as us here, but they're able to do it multidimensionally. So there are, we could say, extraterrestrial aspects of them, and then there are what I call trans-dimensional aspects that are operating outside of a framework, we could say, within the quantum hologram, or if we look at the quantum entanglement of everything. The way it was explained to me once was that Metatron and Michael, along with the Elohim, are basically the immune system within God's body and connect everything through them. And because of that, all points in space and time are connected. So I won't go further because I can get far out, but that's just like one thing that I could say to explain. It's taking now the angelics beyond something with wings or even as a light being. They're part of the makeup of all that is within God's mind.
Did it change into the forms, or it just flowed?
No, at a later stage, there was experiences around that time frame to where there was one specific experience, though at the time it was a mind's eye experience. They were showing me they are the blue orbs and vice versa. And then subsequent experiences afterwards, if there was lightning in the house, I would know that they're there, and I would either see a blue orb or they would appear like that. And I have seen them transform at a time, or a couple of times, but it wasn't originally like that. I think the blue orb manifestation was the easiest way for me not to freak out until I was at a certain way, because people think they can handle a lot of this, but as I see with this, it's something where I say to people, they'll interface with you at the level that you're at, but they will push the barrier on occasions if this is what you're wanting to do. And so this is where people want to deal with this, like contact, experience, and the reality. But as I say, can you deal with somebody knowing everything about you when you interface with them? Because that's what goes on at the higher levels. They know everything you've done, good and bad. The beings that are in line with us, with humanity and the earth and the universe, soul, evolution, ascension, they don't care. They've got love. There's no judgment. But there are other ones that can manipulate through that, and that's where I say you got to look at the fruit from the experiences. So that time frame, which I still see blue orbs now. I've filmed them recently over here, and you can hear on videos people going, yeah, that's a blue orb, like that's still going on now. And they can come in different sizes, but it's a lot of the time something that's easy for them, and it just depends on what's needed. What's the most easiest is when they can pull you to where their frequency's at, and or they can appear as a column of light. But it's most easy operating from a physical and a transdimensional standpoint if you can merge with them and meet them halfway. And that's through just doing the inner work and being a light frequency, through a loving frequency. And also training yourself to be the observer rather than going into reactionary mind when startled with these experiences, because that can almost be, John Vivanco, the remote viewer, has said before, it's like throwing a brick at them if you're responding that way. So, yeah. Look, I've even been taken off-world physically through the Elohim to where they would be a ball of light going into a column of light back into an orb, and then they would expand and engulf me in this blue light. That was teleportation. That was like, to integrate that experience took me 10 years to even want to talk about that, because it defies what most even think they know in this community. And I'm still wondering about so many things and still learning from the transmissions. But I think when we look at it, everyone responds differently to the same experience. You've got a car accident, how people are going to respond, whether they're in that or watching the accident, are going to respond differently. There is, of course, the Hollywood effect, and that entertainment is more, we could say, effective with, horror and scary things and explosions and all that. But people have had very enlightening experiences with me, but they've been very startled by it as well, because it's just the way they're reacting, whether they're coming at it from a standpoint as an experiencer, which in a lot of cases that's fine, and they're already having their own experiences, and then people that are yearning to know what's beyond this and to know what's out there, and they think they can handle it, and then they're very taken aback by it, to where there's a lot of processing. Even at James Gilliland's ranch in America, people have run and hugged trees from seeing a UFO, yet they've driven the countryside to go to ECETI to see a UFO, to see an extraterrestrial vehicle or device, and they freak out. So it's, in some cases, orbs are ships that could be bigger than our sun, and they're just partially materializing. But I think on the highest extremities, when we break through into this physical reality, we can appear as an orb, but really the orb in what I say in a lot of cases is the Merkaba, which, as you got the two opposing tetrahedrons is spinning that much, it's just giving you a flickering light effect. But when you start working on the rainbow body or the Merkaba or the different layers of the light body template, as I say, everything's within the sphere, the orb. And you work with that, you're actually working on one frequency of all the light bodies. So it's something where I think, depending on where we're at, depends on what we can experience. And yes, there are intelligences out there that we can have experiences with, whether initiating it or not. But though I tend to find it's those with their psychic gifts already turned on, whether they know it or not, that these things will pick up on. These guys have got, an extra sense that they're aware of, but not actually understanding that it's a psychic sense, and they can have more experiences than most other people. But I think we all can have them experiences. So the orb is an interesting thing, because you've got nature spirits, elementals, extraterrestrials, angelic intelligences, ultra-terrestrials, the list goes on and on and on, that they can appear as that if they're at a level of consciousness that can do so. And really what they're doing in some cases is exploding into this realm to where they start to materialize, but they can still be like 99.9% in another frequency, and we're just seeing that appear as an orb. And then there's surveillance crafts and devices, some that are biological, some that are made from living light, some that are sent from a light being that can send an orb out from itself to go and do stuff. So it's, this is where can you stop with this? This is why I haven't watched television for 15 years nearly, because these are the things I'm interfacing with on a regular basis, but I'm getting more and more knowledge and trying to implement the wisdom with that to assist others on their journey, because it's interesting. It's never a dull day.
Do you remember when you're taken to the ship?
Oh yeah, like the difference with myself than most people is that I've got hundreds of witnesses in the homes that I've lived, thousands of people physically awake worldwide, and a lot of this during the day. in Australia and around the world, and there's videos of a lot of this stuff as well. It's not that if you forget the videos and trying to document this, that's where things go to a whole new level. So there's been people here that have physically seen some of the friends, I'll call them, on the property here as well as in the sky. Like, the sky stuff's cool, but as I say to people, if you're aware of what's going on down low, and if you're here when it's just a couple of people here, what goes on is like this, but you're interfacing.
I do QHHD.
Yeah.
I've done at least thousands of sessions. And then you may surprise how many people started to remember, you know, when they are taking, even though they had no idea they're taking before. And they started to talk about mantis beings. And then she was surprised so much because she didn't believe UFOs and the ETs and then anything. So when she gone back to this time, she was taking, and she said, oh, at that time was a long time ago. There was not many information on the internet talking about mantis beings. And I didn't know about it that time. That was a long time ago. And she said, oh, there is a tall, strange beings. Look like a mantis, but it has like a human body. Like, she was so confused. And then she said, oh my goodness, I never seen such a thing before. And then she mentioned about gray beings, and then they're all standing. And then she said, no, but you know what? Those mantis beings looks really scary, yeah? But they send me so much love. They're so intelligent. I know that they're intelligent. They communicate with me with the telepathy, and they make me feel relaxed. It's like I'm not scared of them, but those beings next to them, I don't like them. So she was quite scared of the other ones. And
was that Grey she was referring to as the other ones?
Yeah, gray ones, little ones. Yeah. And then she said they don't have emotions. Like they just, you know, touch me and do things with me like without emotions. And I know that there's so many different type of gray beings and stuff, but she was just explaining to me what she was seeing in the regression therapy thing. So I asked you, do you remember when you were on the ship or, you know, taken by beings? Because most of people, quite a lot of people, their memories are deleted or suppressed. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying before. The brain can't integrate everything. Remember how I said they'll give you screen memories as well? So that's why I believe everyone's an experiencer. But the thing with myself that most people aren't aware unless they know a lot about my story or they've read the books, and it's not to get people to do that, but I've kept it very simplistic because people think, oh, this is from regression. I only had 3 or 4 regressions. I haven't done it for nearly 8, 9, maybe 10 years. And the first one I got done with Mary Rodwell because of a missing time event, broad daylight with the flying saucer with a friend. Now, the beings spoke through me, and we did that a consequence of another 2 times, and they spoke through me. And the last time, because I'd actually leave the body. And it was more for the people who were in my life at that time to talk to these beings and get information for me, but they kept saying I already knew everything. And it was more my ego wanting them to confirm because I didn't want to believe what I already know. So people think a lot of what I'm talking about is from hypnotherapy. It's not. I only had it done 3-4 times, and I don't need it. I didn't need it back then. Like they kept saying to Mary, Pete knows. It's like, how many times could they say Pete knows? I couldn't even count it. But I was stubborn, as they kept saying as well. And that's the difference with myself. I know a handful of experiences that are having a lot of constant physical contacts to where it goes into a trans-dimensional nature. Like I say, the crafts can land on you like a ghost. They can vibrate you physically on board. They can vibrate you astrally on board. They can pull the consciousness out and put it into an avatar. Or you can just purely lay there and from the mind's eye interface with them while the crafts overlap with you. And you're just in bed and people think they've gone to another planet or into space. They haven't gone anywhere. And so even a lot of the contact that I've got going on, I'll interface with them, and people will see misty, smoky stuff around the house. They'll see an apparition, they'll see a ball of light, and I can be interfacing with it. And even for myself, that's how it is a lot of the time now. In some cases, they will teleport me to other places. But yeah, like I'd have to say that I couldn't put a percentage on it, because there is so much communication through telepathy going on, and I am aware of. And then there's stuff where you'll go on autopilot of being able to operate in two worlds at once. Like I can film the craft, and while I'm on the ground, I'm on board the ship in my mind's eye, interfacing with them. There's even been times where I've been pulled out of that ship with another intelligence, looking at the ship, looking at me on the ground, and I'm filming it. That's multidimensional mind. So what's happening is the brain in most people can't integrate that. It just can't do it. To me, I had to be weaned into it. At that time, I was getting a lot of nausea and falling over a lot, because the body didn't know what was real and what wasn't. It was like there was an imbalance situation going on. But that's the thing, like I said, I think everyone's having these experiences, and a lot of the time, even if it's simplistic of thinking of a loved one that's passed, that thought is actually them giving you that thought in some cases. And you think you're just having a memory of them, and they're trying to interface with you from a soul form, and you're just not even picking up that that's what's going on. And you might be laughing or smiling or remember that time, but that's what's going on. And that's very much like you're saying, it seems like a conversation with yourself. So that's how a lot of these intelligences will interface with us. But once you get to the experiences of, if it's a physical intelligence evolved enough, you can stare them in the eyes, and in the mind's eye, you're getting flickery of imagery, thoughts, feelings, and emotions all in sync with what we're telling you. And a 45-minute conversation could be done within 10 seconds, just bang. And it's just, you know this, but it's more the brain catching up. And like I said earlier, if the brain was operating at 100%, I think would be on the same level, if not beyond, because the way it's been explained to me is that we're like a super 3D being, and we've got the transdimensional capabilities that a lot of these intelligences don't. And that's sort of what's a bit of an ego trip for some of them, going, what? And they don't, these earthlings don't even realize what they're capable of. And we can go above and beyond, but that's what we're here to help transform and uplift. That's why we're doing conversations, and you're doing what you're doing, and it's all about just playing your part. I know for a fact they're doing it, but it's not a government, it's beyond government. I wrote about this 12 years ago, where I was taking the military bases, and I've seen variations of reptilians and grey intelligences, programmed life forms, that even back then people were asking me, some people are saying that, you know, these are grown and they're not extraterrestrial. And I said, yeah, I know that for a fact. The Elohim was showing me that. There was an experience where they holographically projected what I needed to be aware of over 12 years ago. It was around 12 years ago, because there was so many experiences. I was having experiences, and still do, way more now than what I'm about to tell you, but it started to happen with feline intelligences, different humanoid races from Orion, the Pleiades, and elsewhere. They were showing me mantids. They were showing me variations of greys that were even us in the future, that were coming back. And also what the military, or I'll say military because I'll put it under that, but this is like a military behind a one world government that's behind the one world government, what people can even perceive. It's so black that people that have come to me that are a part of it, with stuff that I know, don't even realize there's levels behind that again. And so we do have exotic crafts and materials, and we could say programmed life forms 100%. And this has been going on, I think, even beyond Roswell, going back thousands of years going back to the time of Atlantis. So there's remnants of that had kept on going on, that infiltrated secret societies, and through that manipulated, and we could say monitored, governments and other secret societies that are offshoots around the entire globe. But it's crazy, but that's one thing, like I can say, I know this isn't a theory to myself, from my experiences and what's been truthful from the Elohim with their track record. But yeah, I remember, like talking to you now, I've been taken physically. There's actually devices that they put on me to teleport me out of my home back then. So these were soldiers that were in types of black, futuristic soldier gear, full body, with weaponry, to where they could put. I don't talk about it because it's something that I want to sort of keep, because if people say it, I know what it is. It's not out on the internet. Everyone knows what this device is. But put it this way, they can tag me and teleport me, and they could do that 12 years ago, which makes crafts useless in that state. A lot of these intelligences, what they're doing is they're using Stargate technology. That's what a lot of this is, and that's how a lot of delegates get here. Now, it doesn't mean the crafts are useless. They're still doing that, but a lot of these balls of light, and in some cases, some of these triangular craft or morphing craft, are at such advanced intelligences that they're just in their light body and they can project what they want. Like, that's, and I've spoken to people in government that are 100% aware of that as well, and were wondering how I knew that. And my question was, how do you guys know this if this is in a document? Because you wouldn't write it if it was just a theory. You would state that it's a theory. It was stated as if it was fact. So, yeah, what's behind the governments, and 99.9% of people in governments have got no idea. Not to belittle them, they're not read in. They've got no access to this information. So I don't blame those people that could help with this, though we're seeing more and more things happen now in the public eye. But this goes back so far, and it's off-world as well, what humans are doing already. It's been like that for quite some time. I don't think anyone's got the answer to that, including me, because even from the intel, there are different ways that this can happen, where it can be an extremely quick disclosure if everyone got over their differences overnight, or it's going to be a dripping disclosure, which seems to be the thing that's happening now. But even energetically, with where we are on the Ascension process, it could be like Dolores Cannon says, a light switch is being flicked, and we just know we're going to laugh at going, what the hell is all that been about? And the veil's lifted. But this is all a soul journey at the same time. So I think it's definitely changed. Like, the amount of people that have woken up in the time that I've been public about this is huge, especially the last, we'll say 4 years, 3-4 years. It's huge, the shift in consciousness. But it's something where they can't be looked up to as gods or better than us. And we can't think that everyone's got our best interests at heart, that are extraterrestrials, because even if it's a white lie, or even if it's a little bit of a deal where we get the raw end and we're not aware of it, that stuff still goes on. We have to do this ourselves, and through that, it's got to be done, we could say, through the people. But there's other things happening that I'm not aware of. I've got an idea of, like I said, like the light switch turning on and the Ascension process. But yeah, like, I know a lot of people within governments around the world. I've talked to people, they know a lot of this, and they've even come to me for my opinion or idea or intel. And at the end of the day, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, even to the extent within the same organisation or agency, to where I even see people that have been in one agency now approaching me from another agency that they're feeding misinformation to that next agency. If we look at how spies operated during the Cold War, or just in general, you've got agencies, not just in the US, but Australia and worldwide, doing that on what they call the UFO phenomena, or the UAP phenomena, and non-human intelligences. So I think it's that convoluted that at the end of the day, we can only be responsible for ourselves and our actions. And most people don't need to know this unless they want to know. As I say, if people give the shirt off their back to help another human, that's what this is about, ascending and being the best version of ourselves. And that knowledge will come with it if and when it needs to come with it. Otherwise, they go back to their natural state and they already know all this anyway. And so I see it on a bigger scale than what most would, because they're pushing for disclosure. And I'm at the point now, like, you know, a decade ago, I wanted to prove my experiences. Now I'm just like, I've got the people that need to know that I'm telling the truth know. I couldn't care anymore. It's like the disclosure comes from within, and enough of us do that, that will change the system. See, you've got to use the system and the rules within the system to change the system. But first, if we change within us and enough of us do that, that's going to be a natural byproduct, those mechanics happening. And so that's why I tend to sit back now more from the public eye, and I'd prefer that, but also educate more with the sanctuary and other things, because that's more of a grassroots level of where people need that are at that level. And they're offshooting, educating others as well. They don't need me to do it, but we sort of do need to be able to assist each other where we can on knowledge and wisdom to be able to help uplift each other and learn and educate.
When people started to see different things, you know, then they want to search for the answer or information, but it is hard to find the real or true information these days because there are some fake ones or exaggerated version or the true stories. They're all mixed up. So people don't know where to go anymore because there are so many groups of people talking about UFOs and ETs and the phenomena these days on the internet. And so my question was, do you have anyone or any organization that you can recommend the people to go and check?
Not really. Not really. If you see it, it's people that are in my documentaries like Mary Rodwell, James Gilliland, John Vivenco, Jason Gleaves, and it's not to belittle others, but what I don't talk about and I don't want to go into is the inner fighting in this community for years. And like I said, if I was such full of crap, why have I got the people coming to me that I do? And here I am nearly 15 years later, filming and documenting, and more witnesses than ever. So the proof is there, but my point with this is that I would ask the viewers to have this litmus test of what you're describing, meaning there's so much crap out there. How do we see what we could describe as the signal from all the noise? How does the information help you become a better person, be of service, and bring love into your life? If it doesn't meet that criteria, question it. And don't belittle it, because there are times that I have even thought the information shared to me was a lie from the beings. My level of consciousness wasn't there to understand it. But if you can take fruit from the information in real time, great. But also let your mind and your heart lead you to information. You might watch this video and all of a sudden it brings up a new person you never heard of, and that leads you to another. Let the journey take you, but don't get obsessed with it, because I've seen it ruin lives, especially when people go into the super soldier phenomena and you know, the SSP and all these other things. All that's real, but what happens is people get absorbed with it, and all of a sudden I'm a super soldier and I'm this and I'm that, and these entities on the other side, they're on the opposite side of this, will take people for a ride. So yeah, look, there are many people that are doing really good jobs in the community going back many years, like really good researchers and what have you. So I'm not belittling any, but for example, people can't understand why I'm not doing this or that in Australia, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, why do I do more around the world and not in Australia? I'll let people work that out. That's just one thing there. And that's why I've got the sanctuary. I don't need to go and do events. I don't want to go and do events. I'm doing it here. And when I go abroad, I do events abroad. But in Australia, I don't need to do much because I'm doing it from here now. And that's, people can work that out themselves. So yeah, people might not even resonate with me, and that's fine too. But again, how does it help you be a better person, be of service, and bring love into your life? If the information you're taking in equates to that, I'll take it on board. Now, you will hear stuff from people out there that you need to hear from that are talking about extremely dark stuff. To be enlightened, you need the full picture. Don't get obsessed with it. But in terms of that, what we've got is a lot of misinformation as well. Just like with the good information, there is a lot of crap out there. So do the same with that. Be aware of the cabal, the Illuminati, secret societies, all different types of negative and influential entities that have got a negative agenda. But don't dwell on it, because a lot of it's crap. But what happens is, if you're aware of it, you are now activating something within you that's open to those things, that now you can get the wheels turning on potential possibilities of things that are happening on the news and in real time. It helps you to have a heads up. But if you're going to have your head in the dark about the darkness, it's not a good thing, as we've seen the last few years, which I was talking about these things happening before they even happened. And everything's been pulled down connected to that.
Mm-hmm.
So take the fruit of the information, whether it's from me or anybody, it doesn't matter who, but for me personally, there's only a handful of people that I really do trust, and it's because of the track record over a decade of being friends.
Mm.
That love is the key, as so simplistic. That through love being the key and balance, we can embrace the simplistic things. Look, Ascension is, yes, partly what this is about. But we've got a flip side in the spiritual community. Now, I'm somebody that's had experiences with the rainbow light. I've had experiences with this knowledge. But what gets blown out of proportion, and I'd like to address here, is that how beautiful the human experience is as well. The touch of another, love, the joyful things we can do, smelling a rose, seeing animals, plants, the sunshine on us. We can experience these things on other worlds as well, but not like I have here. And so many people want to be off-world, and I understand. Even I used to say to my mum, I'm not from here and I want to go home. I get that. But if we can pull our head out of the sand for a moment and just look at the human experience for what it is, with the darkness and the good stuff, and just look at it for what it is, just an experience. It's friggin' awesome if you can take it. And if you can look at it, the cup half full rather than half empty. And we are here to ascend this vehicle, which means uplifting its capabilities transdimensionally, which is going to enhance how great this experience is already. Whether it's the love for a child, the love for a partner, hobbies that you've got, listening to music in the way that we do here, all these different things, yeah, they can be experienced differently, but love is the key, and to do it through the human vessel, and knowing that you're all children of God, source, creator, whatever you want to call that. You've all got access to that, and to do that, joyful things are absolute of importance during this time, because those that are aware like yourself are the balancing act for those that aren't aware, and the forces that are opposing this. Everything's got to be in balance. We've been out of balance for some time. So I'll just ask people to think about that, because I could go into the earth changes, I could go into the galactic changes, I could go into the Cabal and the reptilians, and I could go into the demonic forces and the serpent beings, and which all this is real. James Gillian covers, like, if people listen to James Gillian, the stuff he was saying when I was born has now unraveled, and people were thinking he's full of crap. No, he's not. He's a master in physical form walking amongst us. But my point here is to be aware of all that, but it's like, let's look at the recent political stuff happening. Everyone's going on about the problems. The problems need to be fixed. But look for those who are talking about fixing the problems and creating a better future. Saw Elon Musk talking about this recently, and I was like, that's the type of mind. Now, whether he's good or bad, I'm not going to say. I don't know. I'm not into all that, though. There are a lot of people that have got masks. But my point is, when we start hearing about a positive future, we haven't heard that for so long. We're just so down with the crap that's going on in the world. And it's like, if we can start looking at the future and what we can create, because part of being Elohim is creator beings. We're creator beings in physical form now. Let's remember it.
That is beautiful. And I've got a chill when you're talking about it. It was feeling like uplifting message, because, you know, that people tends to focus on the negative side of the life and then always keep going back to the past to push the button to feel it again. I say, why are you going back there? Because it's real. I said, but as long as you push the button, it stays as real, but you can move forward, because from now on, you're moving forward and that's your life. And so, you know, we need to focus of the reality what they want to go to, not that the one they don't want to go to. If someone wants to contact you, so where we can find you?
petermaxwellslattery.com or jayasanctuary.com or eastcityaustralia.org. And there's all social media sites for those pages as well. So yeah, any of those, and they'll be able to get in contact.
Where can we find your books? On your website?
Yeah, they're on the website. They've been pulled down from some outlets, just like I've been defunded in some areas as well, but they're available on Amazon, Lulu, I think Apple Books. Multidimensional, my movie's up free now on YouTube. And Ascension, the UFO and Paranormal Connection, which is the latest movie that came out nearly a year ago now, that's available on Amazon and some other platforms. But Multidimensional as well is also on Tubi. If people are watching this and they've got access to Tubi, it's on there as well. And yeah, a number of Apple TV and things like that as well, from what I'm aware.
So thank you so much for your time, Peter, today. It was nice to meet you at last, face to face, even it's online. I'm looking forward to seeing you again sometime soon.
Likewise, thank you.